was an 8-minute 41 from this man, Jose Maria Lopez, and we expect the cars to go down into the mid 8-minute 30s. So let's see what happens today. I don't think there'll be too much fuffling around on the Grand Prix circuit in and out of the pits. I think they now need to really get on with the programme, because qualifying this evening, they'll get no chance to run before qualifying starts at 6:30 or 6:20 tonight.
I think it'd be interesting to see some of the in-car stuff now, because in the wet, with the lack of grip, the low level of grip we've got on the Nordschleife, the old part of the circuit, they're having to be so gentle and so delicate with their input to the controls. You know, we weren't really seeing them really fully hard at work, and as the grip level increases, now we're going to see them, they're going to be properly working inside these cars.
Now Stefano D'Aste there opts to go by Sabine Schmitz, the queen of the ring. If I was Stefano, whose total experience of the Nordschleife comprises maybe half a dozen laps, I might be inclined to just follow her and see, even on a couple of corners, if you can get the line right on half a dozen corners that you don't know, then that's going to save you a couple of seconds somewhere. In front of them is Rob Huff.
But Martin, he's a male, and he's an Italian male. I've never followed a female driver.
Now, they are all going round the Grand Prix loop. You can do this. You cut through the top of the Grand Prix circuit onto the main straight in that little tyre chicane, bibbly-bobbly bit, and you can do a couple of laps. And Sabine talked about this first thing this morning when we were waiting to go out in the fog. Couple of laps to really get temperature into the tyre. Just be sure you know how much you can lean on it, and for her especially, because she doesn't know the car at all. Then when she has got a handle on the level of grip she's got, then she can take what she thinks she's got in the car onto what she knows on the Nordschleife and see what comes out of that little mix. So if you like, she knows how to bake a cake in this oven, she just hasn't got the mixture, and she's not quite sure of what time it needs and at what temperature. So it's a bit of a convoluted...
That's a bit of a sexist remark. Always
no. I was just trying to think of a parallel where you know half of the ingredients and not the other half. Jose Maria Lopez, on the other hand, has not raced here. He's done simulator work, he's done testing here, but he has not raced here, and so he knows the car inside out. But that doesn't help you if you get into a 100km/h corner at 140.
Here's an interesting little one for you. In terms of this practice session, we reckon the cars have only got 3 to 3.5 full laps worth of fuel. They cannot refuel during this 1 hour session, not half-hour session, and therefore we do expect quite a bit of downtime in the pits when they start tweaking the cars. This first lap that all these guys have gone out on, a first flying lap, is being done with a full tank of approximately 60 litres worth of fuel, and that was another reason why we saw people going faster at the end of the session in FP1, because of course the fuel had gone down. How you approach qualifying will be very interesting. Do you put just enough for 1 lap's worth of fuel, risk it, or do you put a full tank of fuel, know the first 2 flying laps will not be as fast as the last one, but then hope that that will get you in a good position? Well, it's not our traditional 3-part qualifying period, so it is just an hour of free track time. So you'll fill it for a lap, do a lap, come back in, and then
I think there's so much to be found. You have to fill it for 3 laps, don't you? So you don't have any option. Yeah, there's so much to be found from driver input and finding the limit with the limited track time they've had around here. I would imagine they're going to put everything in Ben and just keep on rattling around as long as they can, but only 3 laps. It's a big ask on them. It's a good job they don't ask us to do that at Knock Hill. It'll be all over in about 2 minutes. Well, so far 4 cars have ventured out onto the full circuit. Ivan Muller in his Citroën, Qinghua Ma in his Citroën, Mehdi Benani in his Citroën, Sebastian Loeb in his Citroën, and now joining them Tom Coronel, Norbert Mikelic, Rob Huff, who is fastest in Sector 2, in the dry in the Lada, ahead of the Citroëns, and Mehdi Benani has joined in as well. So Huff fastest in Sector 2, 105.7 for that part of the lap. Gabriele Tarquini second fastest in Sector 2 and fastest in Sector 1. So at the moment, Huff and Tarquini are about 2 seconds up on the opposition. Oh, now you can get some real depth of the speed that they're going now, Martin.
Tom Coronel and Norbert Mikulits right in front of Rob Huff.
And it's the two works Hondas that are still sitting in the pits, Tarquini and Montero, not gone on track yet.
You're right. Did I say it was Tarquini? No, I did say it was Mikulits. So, oh no, I beg your pardon, it's Ivan Muller who's set the fastest time along with Rob Huff. So Huff and Coronel have both gone by Norby. Norby was going relatively pedestrian pace, and on the Nordschleife, A, that's not a very good thing to do, and B, it's a waste of 13 miles of fuel.
Huff quickest in the second sector, but that's only by a fraction, a few hundreds from low.
Now he's getting a good toe off Coronel.
Well, I reckon Coronel's holding him up down here.
Yeah, and now he needs to get by Tom Coronel. Tom is going to find it very difficult to move offline in too many places here. They're coming right down to Adenau, to the Adenau Bridge. And then they start to climb. This is a very long, fast section after the Adenau Bridge. In fact, Huff goes around the outside into the right-hander before the long left over the little flyover at Adenau, bottoming out down here and then starting this big climb. Tight corner onto it. And the exit there is so important because, Matt, this is foot to the firewall all the way up this hill for about 1.5 miles.
Yeah, this hill is a lot steeper than it looks on television. Yeah. Much steeper climb, and you can really feel the labour, the engine labouring as you're going up through the gears. You want to exploit every last rev you can before you shift up.
I thought really reminiscent of the climb out of Eau Rouge at Spa. It's a very steep uphill. You would not want to be running it. And again, here Huff, he pulls another gear, still building the speed all the way up here.
But it's not for the faint-hearted either, Martin,
no.
Because any slight lift out the throttle, it's like lifting out down a straight. It's going to cost you bags and bags of time.
And just ahead of him, Sebastian Loeb has gone a couple of seconds faster through sector 3, so he was compromised, Rob Huff, behind Tom Coronel in that back section of the circuit.
So the sectors, Huffy was 4/10 behind Loeb in the first sector. He was 2/500ths faster than Loeb, and he's 2 seconds, 2.2 slower than Loeb in the third sector. So net gain for Sebastian Loeb is about 3 seconds on Rob Huff so far on the lap. Jose Maria Lopez set the fastest second sector of all. Ivan Muller set the fastest first sector of all, but is 1 second behind Loeb on aggregate, I would say, about now. Muller's actually in front on the track. Loeb cresting yet another one of the 1,746 blind brows that there are around here. I used to think there were a lot of blind brows at Alton Park until I came to this place. But now, see the difference, Matt, in the body language with the cars. These guys are very committed now.
Yeah, you were saying from the in-car stuff with Loeb, he's really having to work hard in there, as are all the drivers.
Oh, big snatch from Muller as he drops down over a curb, and just a little bit of clear air under the car.
As you see, just typical of one of the blind crests there. And the speed, you've got to set the car up for where you want it to be in 200, 300 metres time. So one slight misjudgment, one slight mistake, and so many of these corners, they blend into another. It's putting the sections together, and so many of the sections and the corners, the blind corners. Oh,
Sabine Schmitz has pulled off and stopped on track, and that is not what they wanted to see, the All-Inkle guys.
Let's hopefully it's just...
Thanks to everybody for pointing out, by the way, there's a loose nose on that car. You could see the gap between the wing and the bumper moving as she was pushed back in. So as she spun it, she found that there wasn't the rear grip that she would have got from her Porsche.
Lopez very quick in sectors 2 and 3.
Out of Dottinger now, he's on the long straight up to the Tiergarten. The final sector is very slow and twisty compared to this 170 mile an hour flat out straight. Talking to Marco Calovolo, who's engineering Jaap van Lagen's car, I said, do you have a soft limiter? He said, no, it's an air restricted limiter basically, but he said here it is pure top speed decided by the aerodynamics of the car. We saw Daniel Elena there in the pit lane. I bet he'd like to have a couple of laps with Sebastian Loeb on the notes here, because it is like a tarmac rally stage. And across the line comes Loeb. No surprise that Muller goes fastest. He's first across. Loeb goes quicker than he, and behind Mark will be third fastest. Gabriele Tarquini in the Honda now out on track. And who'll be next to complete a lap? Might be Mehdi Benani. It is Mehdi Benani. He goes fourth quickest. Only 4 drivers have completed a lap. Benani down to fifth as Huff goes fourth fastest. And a 1:27.9 to the beg your pardon.
What's that? Is that a puncher?
Yeah.
That's not going to be good driving that all the way back.
No, it's tyre rub. It's not flat because the car is level to the ground. So I'm saying she's had a spin somewhere. And maybe just knocked that front end a little. There's no sign of damage. Just on that right corner, the left-hand side, as we looked at it, there seemed to be more of a gap between the bumper splitter element and the front wing element than I would have expected.
That's going to be a long haul, old haul back to the box, that is.
Steering wheel looks to be on straight with Jose Maria Lopez. It's Loeb, Muller, Marr, Huff, Daste, and Van Lagen's gone fifth. So Huff, Van Lagen and Daste. 3 Citroens, 2 Ladas ahead of the first of the Chevys.
It's a good solid lap from Daste.
Yep.
Up into sixth.
Bearing in mind, again, he wouldn't need both hands to count the number of laps he's ever done on the Nordschleife, including none on a simulator.
And I think it's the first time in the dry, Martin.
Yep. They did the test yesterday. How wet was it then?
I think it was dry yesterday.
Yeah. Lopez flying down the final straight.
Muller back in the pits.
Yeah. Loeb and Muller and Marr is out, single lap back in. That only takes, what, 20 minutes? Lopez coming to the braking area for Tiergarten. Drop under this, still flat out. You can see the little blue light and the speed limit sign. That's for the GT3 cars in the 24-hour race.
How does he do it?
Say in the pit lane.
He's just quickest in every sector again.
I tell you what, Sebastian Loeb might be ruining the fact that he's met Jose Maria Lopez here in his racing career. I bet he's bloody glad he was never a rally driver.
There you go, bang.
Yep. Lopez to the top of the pile by 1.3 seconds now on a 2.5 mile circuit. That would be a big margin. On a 12.8 mile circuit, that's not a big margin.
Well, the others know they've got to pull the socks up a bit now, so...
That's a 1/10 of a second mistake, 1 every 10 corners, basically. That's all the difference is. What is it? It's how many kilometres? It's 12.8 miles, 25 kilometres nearly, isn't it? And hang on, let me find. Instead of guessing, it's 25.3 kilometres, and he's 90 seconds faster. So Sebastian Loeb, in rallying terms, has given away 2 seconds a kilometre. I'm not sure he's ever done that in rallying. Normally he's taking 2 seconds a kilometre off everybody. Daste in the pits. Tom Chilton is in after his lap. Tom Coronel, Norbert Mikulich. Norby, a 9:04. That would have been quick this morning, but with an 8:42 being the fastest time, it's not quick this afternoon. Are we still this morning? No, it's 12:10. It's this afternoon.
Yeah, just to put it into context, at an 80 miles an hour average, which we are doing a lot more than that.
Yep.
That gap between Lopez and Loeb would be 50 metres at the end of the lap. So that's what he's pulling out, which is a fair margin, but not over the distance, the kind of lap we're talking about.
Yeah. And it goes again to show just how good these guys are and how close the cars really are. You know, we're always talking about, oh, he's really got a big advantage there in qualifying when he's a couple of tenths faster.
So we can get back in car with him, down into the foxhole, and be into compression. You see him going down in the seat there.
Yeah.
As the car goes into compression.
And this is the track all over, isn't it? Compression brow, curb, corner, brake, accelerate. Somebody's drawn a pedestrian crossing across the middle of the track. So again, in the rain, you'll be trying to straddle that with your tyres on the black bits, not on the white bits. throwing gears at the car as fast as he can. It's such a circuit of, well, not even a circuit of two highs. There's two very different natures to almost every element of this track, and that's the high-speed nature and the really twisty ducking and diving nature.
You know, with these modern TC1 cars, the new regulations with a lot more aero, they're almost like a mini GT car.
Yeah.
I think this is almost the first circuit we really see them pushed and put through their paces. It's phenomenal. It's great coming back here, and it's great to see the cars really on the edge and being made to dance. And here we go, back, still falling down the hill, down towards Callanhard, bottom of the hill, before we start the big long climb back up. There we go. I want to get a good exit from here. Is really important.
A little bit of concern for Gabriele Tarquini, who set a 20 seconds slower lap through sector 3 than he should have done. It's his first flying lap on the Nordschleife because he and Thiago waited a little bit. We haven't yet seen him come through sector 4, so we won't pick him up on the cameras, but he's having a slow lap, and maybe he caught Sabine Schmidt in a strange place. But Tarquini, sadly, at the moment looking very slow and not setting a representative lap time for the Honda Civic. The only Honda we've seen doing a lap is Norbert, and Norby was outside the 9-minute mark, so he didn't get a good lap either.
Yeah, it's a tough start for the Hondas then.
Yeah, it definitely is. They need some reliability here because they've got to get the speed out of the car. Great onboard footage with Jaap van Lagen. Well, let's just ride with this. I mean, this is as enjoyable for us to watch as it is for you back home.
Up to the carousel at the top here, isn't it? Oh, we've gone to another shot now.
Yep. Well, here he follows Bernani through. Again, you can see big campground area. There's 4 or 5 really major camping areas. You don't just have hundreds of fans dotted all the way around this track.
All the murals and paintwork, they used to do stuff like this in Macau in the Formula 3 days, and they used to go, because of the blindness through the arm cars, they used to go and paint markings as turning points. And then some of the sneaky drivers used to go and cover them up and paint new markings for them.
Put their own names down. Through Flansgarten, and this is the run down out of Flansgarten to Schwabenschwanz. Van Lagen is catching Bernani's Citroën. Bernani didn't go into the pits like the factory cars did. See, there is sunshine out on the track. Dropping down. This is Van Lagen, so that was Huffy we were seeing chasing before then.
Is that through Brunchen?
Yeah. That's through Brunchen and up to Flansgarten. Oh, good boy. Keeps his foot in. It's a long while since he's driven a front-wheel drive car. In fact, that was Wipperman and Eisenbach, and this is now Brunchen we're seeing. Again, flatly committed over the crest. And from Dottingerhöhe, this long straight run down to the braking area at Tiergarten. Well, the car's unlimited in World Touring Car Championships, probably touching about 265, 270, the fastest speed here. And this will be the fastest speed on the track. So they are going quicker than the GT3 cars in the 24-hour race. And Sabine Schmidt's being caught at just the wrong place as far as Mehdi Bernani's concerned. She now has to go all the way around the Grand Prix track, another 2.5 kilometres to get to the pit entrance, which is right at the very end of the Grand Prix lap. She's got the hazard warning lights on. Bernani, well, Rob Huff goes third fastest, chasing Bernani, who was only 8th quickest. So Mehdi was fastest of all in the first sector. But that has now been beaten by Gabriele Tarquini. He was going out into the country. And Jaap van Lagen now from Dottingerhöhe, climbing over this long rise. And again, the onboard gives you an idea of how much of a climb there is. If you were trying to run this or even cycle it, you'd be feeling it in your calf muscles all the way. And again, you see, Matt, how often the car is compressed here. There's so many changes of gradient that probably in the 30s were relatively mild, but now with cars with much more aero at speed are really quite severe.
That Lauda does look nervous.
Yep.
You look, it looks edgy the way it's going down, even the way it's driving down the straights.
Good race cars are always a little bit dancing on the edge. Jaap van Lagen goes 6th quickest. That was an 8:48. His fastest was an 8:47, so that was 0.6 of a second slower. 2 laps within 0.6 over 12.8 miles.
Interesting they're losing the time there in the sector 4 and 5, suggesting the tyres potentially going off just a little bit. A replay of Loeb lifting off, only a little bit.
Yeah.
Not quite as much as we used to see in the GT cars, but yeah, those Ladas on their second lap on the tyres, losing time at the end of the lap.
It's hardly that, what's the leap on the Thousand Lakes Rally?
Yeah, these cars have probably got a little bit more aero than the old cars had, so just push them back down onto the ground. Unfortunately for us, they're spectacular to watch.
I still cannot even fathom what it must have been like to drive a Grand Prix car in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, at any time around here. If you go online and look up in-car 956, there's a spectacular lap from Derek Bell on board a Porsche 956, where he is setting, I believe, the second fastest lap ever around the Nordschleife, and doing the commentary as he's doing it, and gets passed by Stefan Belloff in the other Rothmans Porsche 956, who naturally goes on to set the fastest time ever around the track. Sebastian Loeb dropping through Adenau. This little bit here is quite tricky because you want to carry so much more speed out of the compression, but the barriers are waiting on the exit of that little right-hand dink and not the long straight if you try it.
Yeah, Callanhard, it's always, you always think you've never taken it well enough, and once it sort of tempts you in there to take it, carry more and more speed in it, because then you get it all the way up the hill, but you've got to be ever so careful.
Now, was it a steering arm, I wonder, for Sabine Schmidt's car? Because it... no, you see that little black gap I thought was a gap is not. It's just
That's aero,
in the marker. It's just in the... and there was no damage on the splitter. Something has collapsed on the left front corner on a halfway round the lap.
But as you say, Martin, the splitter was parallel, so...
I don't think there was any damage. I think maybe
it's been...
it's certainly not accident damage. I think maybe something's just come undone. Well,
maybe one of the inner arches has dropped down or something like that.
Fortunately, we have our pit lane reporters down there, so we'll hopefully find out from Ben Constanduras.
I'm having a nose. Certainly no bodywork damage, so no damage in terms of hitting anything. The wheel has been rubbing on the outside of the arch, but that has got to be an internal problem rather than an external problem. Sticking my head in.
Just a hub somewhere.
Yeah, they ran some inner wheel arch liners, which might have just dropped just to close off the aero, and it might have, one of those might have dropped down.
I didn't have a look earlier. Has that car got them? Because we haven't seen that car this year.
Yeah, they've all got them.
They've all got them.
Yeah, just to shut it all off.
And that liner has disappeared, so it's been ripped out by whether that's dropped off and ripped out. They're fiddling around just to take the rest of it off. So I think you might be right there, Martin. I think it's the inner liner that's fallen down. I'm
not claiming that. Matt is the man who came up with the sensible suggestion of why the car looked perfect but was billowing smoke.
We're a team.
Right.
We're a team, guys. So we'll accept it as a team.
Yeah. We win as a team, we lose as a team.
The other things that we had sort of question marks over in FP1 was tank capacity.
Yes.
And we reckon that's about 60 litres, but it's not the same per manufacturer. Lada seem to have the largest of the tanks, and maybe closer to 4 laps, along with Chevrolet, rather than Citroën and Honda, they do 3 laps on their full tanks, and that's significant because they cannot refuel. The other one was gearboxes. Now, we were talking about needing to have a new set of, we're going to call them cogs, and that's the wrong word. But yeah, you have to declare your ratios for the season.
Yep.
And in fact, I'm told by Eric Nev that there is no difference in the ratios here than they would use in Macau.
Yeah.
It's interesting that is, Ben, because I was questioning Norby about it with the Top Gear. I said, how does it differ to Macau? And he was sort of a little bit blank-faced.
Evasive.
He laughed, he did laugh, but...
It was a question, apparently, that all the teams put to Eric Nev, who's the consultant now, the technical consultant, And they all said, oh, we're going to have a special fuel tank, we have to special this, special that. And they work around it, and eventually they haven't got special suspension, they haven't got special fuel tanks, and they haven't got special gearbox.
Now Muller's on a very fast front two sectors. It's going to be interesting if we can just keep an eye on him, how he goes in sector 3.
Sebastian Loeb was on a personal best lap, but that has sort of evaporated in the last sector that we were just watching.
And I think that's a tyre thing again.
I think you might well be right. It's not a second flying lap, though, because he did come into the pits. So this is, he's been in and either made adjustments or changed tyres. And either we haven't seen him make a mistake, or the tyres are going off, or he has made a mistake that we didn't see. So
now, here's a question for you, Ben. Are Yokohama, is this the standard Yokohama tyre? Is it a special for Nürburgring, or is it just the regular that we're using as all the other races?
I, in fact, already have asked that question, and it is exactly the same spec. They have to provide the same spec as part of the regulations in the championship, so this is exactly what they would use in every other circuit. A little bit of concern from Honda with 2 punctures in testing yesterday, but apparently not their fault.
No. Well, with all the cars that are out and going off, then debris, I'm afraid, is always going to be a bit of a problem here, especially if you venture over curbs and out to track limits. So the more you stay on the grey stuff, the less likely you are to run over somebody else's muck, because it tends to get blown away by the air rushing from the car. Sabine Schmidt's trying to go out now in the dry to get a lap in this car. At the moment, she hasn't completed a fast lap, but that will change, I'm sure. She's driven enough on this track. She's driven enough different vehicles, not just cars, on this track, to have a pretty decent handle on what she's doing. She eschews the opportunity to have a practice start. She wants to set a practice qualifying lap first, and she will go out just in front of Mady Bernani. Jose Maria Lopez, fastest man at the moment. Personal best sector 1, fastest of all in sector 2 by a full half second over even Ivan Muller, who went fastest of all in sector 1. Muller's on a very good lap ahead of Lopez on the road.
Tarquini's popped up in 3rd in the Honda as well. That's a good positive.
And we spoke about his first lap being very slow. That second lap was much more committed, and as you say, 2.8 off Pachito Lopez, the first real representation of what Honda can do, although he's already said in the press yesterday that he does not expect the Hondas to be able to match the Citroens here.
And if we just took the word "here" out, do you think that would still apply?
Well, you say that, but they were a lot stronger, and you know they took a race victory in Budapest.
I'm not saying it. I'm just asking the question whether they feel that they've got something that they can match Citroën with on a more normal circuit, where perhaps the elevated speed isn't quite so much of a factor as it is here. Because again, as we watch Lopez through Flansgarten, and
he's properly committed.
In fact, that's Muller, that's Ivan, isn't it? Yeah, properly committed. Well, Ivan's had enough of being beaten by Lopez. Thank you very much.
Quinquamar, fastest of all in sector 4.
Wow.
That means he's about to have an accident.
Oh, don't be starting with that stuff. So Muller on his way up to the mini carousel. Work going on the front of the Chevrolet, which is currently, 7th fastest for Hugo Vallant, and see how much of this splitter has been rubbed away there, Matt. And again, that's a factor here, is because of the camber changes and everything dropping into the carousel, you know, stuff gets ground out.
Fastest of everybody.
Wow, Mars found something very special there. An 8:42.1, half a second quicker than Jose Maria Lopez.
There you go.
Yep.
Muller's coming up. Muller's on a quick lap. Very quick lap at the moment.
Young and fearless. Mars got that at least on his side as well as...
Actually, I don't think Muller had him in sector 1. It's going to be tight.
Well, Muller was only 2/10 quicker in sector 3, so he needs a 49.9 final sector. No, because Mar was 2/10 quicker in sector 3.
No, but Muller had him by a good 8/10 in sector 1.
Yeah. But he was faster in sector 2, slower in sector 3, slower in sector 4.
We need the French
faster in sector 4. So yeah,
get his mojo back.
On balance, he should go to the top, and he does by 1.269 seconds.
And that's finally faster than Pachito's fastest lap yesterday as well.
Yeah. So we had an 8:41 yesterday. We're now down to 8:40.9. So are we getting to the mid-39s in qualifying?
Lopez is looking for a pretty big mega lap at the minute, though. Sorry to tell you, everybody.
Tom Chilton's on a personal best. He's 11th at the moment. Thiago Monteiro on a better lap. Mikulits on a better lap. Coronel on a better lap. Lopez a bit shy of his personal best in Sector 3, though. Let's see where he can make up for that lost ground.
Yeah, it's still half a second up on Muller was doing in Sector 3, though.
Oof. See, that little downshift and dab of the brakes before the jump makes sure that you can then negotiate the right and the left that follow.
Yeah, I think we can safely see why the splitters are wearing out.
Oh, O'Reilly. They must be getting through clean underwear at a rate as well. You would be if you were in the passenger seat. We're used, Matt, aren't we, on a regular circuit, you know, to see maximum attack from these drivers. You know, not 100th of a second going to waste, but on a track like this, it's still the same, despite the fact that the runoff area is measured in millimetres rather than metres.
Yeah, just through the mini carousel there, that means he's coming up to the end of Sector 4 on the run up to the main straight. Will be pedal to the metal here.
Yeah. Lopez fastest of all in Sector 4. Ivan Muller on the top of the pile, Qinghua Ma. Lopez, previous lap, good enough for third at the moment, but not good enough for first, and therefore, empirically, not good enough for Lopez. Muller and Ma in the pits, Loeb in the pits, Tarquini and Huff in the pits, with half an hour to go. And this really is going to be the format for qualifying, going out, doing a lap, coming back in, thinking, pondering, changing, setting the diff.
That left-hand kink, in the 24-hour cars, it is a real big arse to try and get through their flat. These TC1 cars go through there without even blinking.
Well, now it's not, because they're limited to 250. So, in fact, they're carrying speed much deeper down into the final braking area in Tiergarten. As Lopez goes top with an 8:39.4, 1.49 seconds, 1.48 seconds quicker than Ivan Muller.
Now, Martin, I know there's 3 places now where there's speed restrictions for the 24-hour race. I didn't think the main straight was one of those places.
From Dottinger, it's a 250 km/h speed limit all the way down to Tiergarten. So they're carrying less speed, and as a result, they're going deeper into Tiergarten before they need to hit the brakes. So it's changed the nature of those final corners at the end of the lap.
That's painful, isn't it?
Well, it is, you know.
It's like the 50-mile-an-hour limit on the M1, that is.
Unfortunately, most cars have, have got to do it. There's been a few that have been pinged and lost best laps, but in the race, if you're within 10 Ks of the limit, you lose 1 minute and 32 seconds in the pits. If you're within 10 and 20, then you lose 2 minutes and 32 seconds. If you're within 20 and 30 kilometres an hour over the limit, you lose 5 minutes and 32 seconds in the sin bin. And if you're more than 30 kilometres over the limit, you are black flagged and your licence is in danger of being revoked to drive on the Nordschleife.
Is that right?
Yup. First offence if you're that far over the limit. Now, there have been a couple of cars, the Nissans particularly, were running without a limiter because they said actually it runs the risk of destroying the car, destroying the engine. Everybody else is using an additional pit lane speed limiter, if you like, to limit it at a maximum of 250k. But again, some of those that have been using the limiter have been over and have been penalised, so they need to recalibrate that, and that's part of what's going on in qualifying.
How do they check? GPS?
GPS is being used in race control.
But for 180 cars?
No, only for the GT3 classes.
Yeah, but still probably 60-odd cars.
Oh, yes, no, absolutely. But assuming that it's automatic, you only get an alarm bell if somebody actually speeds rather than having to monitor everybody.
Thankfully, though, the World Touring cars don't get up to that speed, so it doesn't apply.
Well, they do, but they aren't limited because they're not quite such a flat floor flying potential. Although
they are actually.
Well, exactly, but it's not part of what the Nürburgring has been dealing with this year since Jan Mardenborough's very unfortunate accident about 5 or 6 weeks ago. So at the moment, there is no restriction. And they are limited in terms of top speed by the nature of the car, the touring cars, in that they are generating this downforce, and with downforce comes drag, and so it's actually the car going through the air that is limiting them to about 260 Ks.
With the majority being, well, they're all front-wheel drive now. Obviously, if the nose lifts, you lose forward drive.
Yep.
And not like with the big Mercs and the Nissans and everything, they sort of get the nose in the air and they keep on driving from the rear.
Well, and the other thing is, of course, we've got about 300 horsepower less than some of the very fastest cars in the field, so they're not doing quite the speed. I mean, without the speed limiter restriction from Dottinger-Her, then the fast cars in the 24-hour race would be comfortably over 300 kilometres an hour on that long, fast straight. So for them, it's a big reduction in top speed. For our cars, the speed is going to be found predominantly in the corners, because they're all hitting VMAX at the back. You know, if you put a body shell in a wind tunnel, the wind tunnel pretty much comes up with the same answer for everybody. So it is speed through the air that is limiting the cars as much as anything else.
I would imagine a lot of these guys are going to be not going out, because they're going to be, as you know, as Ben touched on, tyre degradation. You know, they're going to be wanting to, you know, and the limited tyres they've got, and wanted to save so many new tyres for qualifying.
Well, don't forget, we've got through the first hour of free practice without using any slicks. So this is the first time they'll have used them today. So, yes, the race distance, as we talked about, is no longer than a normal race. Okay, there might be more corners, but that's per lap. Well, I suppose there probably are more corners in total than your usual 25-minute race. So I think the big thing is that it uses an awful lot of fuel to finish a lap, and you can't do half a lap here. Well, you can. There's a long walk.
Yeah, I think this is Van Lagen. It's an in lap.
Yeah,
I think he's having a nice little cruise up here.
Yeah, he's still going considerably faster than I'd be comfortable with at this stage.
Talking about cruising, Tom Coronel's gone 2 minutes slower through Sector 3 than he should have done on a lap that initially started as a good one. So potential problem for Coronel in Sector 3. We haven't seen anything on TV, and it's actually the sector that we don't have many cameras on. So he's got away with
spot.
it. Yeah, exactly.
And Sector 4. Well, I wonder whether when we pick him up now, when he comes up through Wipperman and so on, whether he's going to have a puncture. White flag, slow-moving vehicle being shown to Jaap van Lagen at the carousel.
Yeah, so Sector 3 is like going to the dark side of the moon for the Apollo missions, isn't it, Ben?
And gee, guess what? It's Tom Coronel's car. Not lots of smoke coming off it, and Jaap van Lagen checking in the mirrors to see why Coronel was going so slowly. Sabine Schmidt sets her first flying lap and goes to 16th place ahead of Grégoire de Moustier. That was the 9-minute 2.38. And that is her sighting lap. That is her first lap in the dry in the car today.
Second lap, isn't it, Martin?
Yeah.
To Moustier.
Yeah, but the first one was with the wheel arch liner coming up.
Of course, yeah.
And she will be a little bit hobbled against the other Chevys, because she hasn't got an engine upgrade, and she's missing one of the wheel arch liners, which is going to cause a little bit of extra drag. Yeah, one hand tie behind her. And she doesn't know the car, and, you know, you want confidence here, don't you?
Only because you've been bigging her up in the bar all night.
So yeah, no, do you know what? Genuinely, I think she's got every opportunity to finish in the top 10. If she can get enough dry running in the car without it doing things like misfiring and shedding bits and pieces of aero. I mean, Jaap van Lagen's proof of that. He's perhaps not as experienced around the track here as Sabine is. He's had as little experience in fact, that's not true. He's had a day of testing in the Lada, or half a day of testing in the Lada, in Hungary after the race in Hungaroring a couple of weeks ago, but he's got very little knowledge of this car. It's a long while since he's driven a front-wheel drive touring car as well, and it was nothing like this spec. And he's having a gentle cruise back.
What's happened to Tom then? Does it look like the nose is down? No, there's no punches.
No sign of damage, no sign of tyre smoke coming off the car either, but he is going very slowly. No, I don't think he'll be periscoping now. But the car is going very slowly indeed through Wipperman. The splitter has dropped onto the ground. So did he have a spin or a little run off onto the dirt somewhere, or has it just broken its Zeus fastener? In fact, I think the splitter's only just gone, because he's now slowing right down.
Still not going to do him much good, is it?
It's one of the things we saw Hugo Vallant had a problem with yesterday, and he said just the car bottomed out and it loosened a few screws and dropped the splitter onto the floor. They will have a hell of a pounding going into some of those drops, and down at the bottom of the foxhole, the underfloor of the car will get an incredible battering.
And it's all the jumps and landings, isn't it, as well? You know, that's not what World Touring Car suspension is designed to take. Is Van Lagen in top gear? I'm not sure he is. I wonder if he's not got all the gears in the box. That doesn't sound like he's cruising in 6th. That sounds like he's stuck in 5th, maybe.
I think he's just maybe started the lap, didn't go to plan, so he's...
Yeah, but he's using a lot of revs for somebody who's cruising in. I don't know. That's worth... Run, Ben, run.
Thankfully, I'm at Lauda.
Excellent. Well, ask then. Well, no, ask now before it all hits the fan, and ask what has he said on the radio. That would be my guess on that.
They'll suddenly go into Russian mode.
Yeah. And now, of course, you can't use the pit entrance there, so you have to go all the way around the circuit. Meanwhile, back with people who are going quickly, Sebastian Loeb on an improved lap, personal bests all the way. So has Hugo Vallant, got personal bests.
Oh, can we have a bit of traffic?
In fact, Hugo Vallant's 3rd sector was just 0.6 slower than Loeb. His 2nd sector was quicker than Loeb. His 1st sector was quicker than Loeb. So Hugo Vallant, on total of this lap so far, is quicker than Sebastian Loeb.
Yeah, we're coming up to the end of sector 4 here, so we should get a good indicator for Loeb.
Each of the sectors
here...
came
out the throttle there.
Sector 4 is a 3-minute 12 sector. That's more than a lap anywhere we go except for Macau. And Loeb did a 3:13.45, so Vallant is quicker than the man who's on a better lap and is currently placed 4th. So this is a very good lap coming up from Hugo Vallant.
It'd be nice if he could get right amongst the Citroens, wouldn't it?
Well, there's Loeb, the camera going a long way down the straight to find him. Vallant is closer to us and comes across the line underneath us now, and Hugo Vallant goes 2nd fastest, 8 minutes 40.3. Take that, Ivan Muller. So Lopez fastest, Vallant 2nd, and Loeb will go faster than Muller on this lap as well, I think.
It's going to be close, isn't it?
Muller's left the pits, Mars left the pits, Tarquini has left the pits, and Loeb goes 3rd quickest. 8:39.4, 8:40.3, 8:40.6. Lopez, Vallant and Loeb, and there is Mar coming out of the pits.
Muller's suddenly from P1 back in P4. He's not going to like that.
Back in the box. Got to go out and do it all again, and this might end up being last man standing again. It is only free practice, but you are practicing what you're going to have to preach in the hour in qualifying. So not just when you do your run and what you can do in terms of how we do an hour that's only going to encompass 3 laps.
Vallant's certainly upsetting the Citroen house party at the moment, isn't he?
But showing the sort of speed and form that he has this season. Now that's his 3rd lap, so he may end up coming back into the pits now and having a bit of a snooze for the last quarter of an hour, and then the 6 hours before qualifying. Or 5.5 hours.
It's nice to be well rested before you go out.
It's nice to be well rested. Chatting to the boys at Craft Bamboo, and they're saying, "Oh, they're not going to have much of a sleep." I said, "Well, you got 6 hours now. You just have a 4-hour nap today." Well, Hugo Vallant apparently is avoiding having a 4-hour nap just yet. He's back out onto the Nordschleife.
Yeah, it's got a bit foggy on that one.
Yeah, camera
so
lens
why is he going for another lap?
Because he can. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, but you're just taking life out your tyres.
Well, I'm assuming that this set is only for FP1 and FP2, and he's got more fresh tyres for qualifying and racing. You've pretty much run the whole of both free practice 1 and 2 on any other track, and I'm not sure really that you can consider this to be so much different that you wouldn't want to. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear that. I just don't want him to damage the car.
No, I don't either.
Put it away.
I don't either. Well, luckily we haven't got a single car shootout, so hopefully he'll get through qualifying without stacking it into the barriers as well.
Yeah, could traffic be a factor in? You know, if Huffy got stuck behind Coronel, he'd be pretty choked.
It's 12.8 miles. It's 17 cars, and you've got an hour. If you come to me and say, "Oh, I got traffic on every lap," I'm sorry, I'm not having that.
No, but you are going to get ones where you got your choice tyres on, Martin. So,
yeah,
and that will be a factor, and they will have a window of where they're really working well.
So, how much of Ugo's tyres given up? Not enough.
He's trying.
He's still working them hard. Coronel comes finally crawling past us. He's only got another 2.5 kilometres of the Grand Prix circuit to do, unless he pulls off into the paddock. And actually, do you know what? With 15 minutes to go, I think he'll probably pull off into the paddock.
I think you're right.
Although, actually, there's 15 minutes. If he comes round, there'll be 10 minutes left. And then... Oh, no, this finishes at 50, doesn't it? Not at the hour. So, in fact, there's not even 10 minutes left. So, no. Coronel will head into the paddock, I think.
55 should be.
55? All right, so 14 minutes.
Van Lagen was complaining of a vibration, and if you look at the slick tyres that have just come off the car, his right front is wearing on the outside edge on something on the bodywork. There's been a few sort of Russian hammers about, and he's got a new set of boots going onto the car, and he'll head back out again. So I think just a sort of a bit concerned that maybe the car was falling apart a little bit in the second half of that lap.
Russian hammer, is that the butt of a Kalashnikov rifle?
I know it is a large Allen key that's being used now.
So he was clearly hearing or feeling something that he wasn't entirely convinced about. New noise in car, slow down. And that, for a racing driver on a track like this, that's never a bad rule, is it?
Wow, all your senses are really heightened, you know, and you're looking and feeling, and so much information's coming to you, and you've got to try and process that. You know, it's something out the normal. You know, it rings alarm bells straight away. Then you've got to decipher what you've got to ignore and what you've got to push through.
Oh, Honda. See, now, if that was Citroën, they'd have had that pixelated so nobody could tell that he was flat in top.
See the dash moving up and down.
I know.
Just everything in the car is under extreme pressure.
How quick is this?
He's having a bit of a lift up there.
Yeah, but you have to, Matt. Some places that, you know, they're just not flat in top. Is that Brunchen?
That was up for Horakt, is it?
Not quite. Oh, yes, maybe.
Or Wippermann at the top. Yeah, because he's going into the carousel now. You can see him getting bumped around.
You guys in your German accents are fantastic.
Hey, I can always eat and drink in this country.
It's the benefit of bobsleigh, eh?
No, that's a benefit of having a grandfather whose original name was von Haffen.
It's like your Greek accent, Ben.
Yeah, let's not go there. I think my Greek accent is as good as Ben's.
Got a very good German accent.
Yeah, as long as you're auditioning for a part in LOLO.
Ben, a goose step doesn't count as an accent.
No.
Oh, stop it.
So through Wippermann and Eschbach. That trail breaking through, little puff of smoke. It's so busy, this sector. Really just constantly turning and turning and turning and turning.
He's using every inch of the track and more, isn't he? He's That's dangerous, well, like using that much curb all the time. But he's looking for every...
But they've raced here, haven't they? You know, they've got the experience of long runs on this track, and he's using all of that.
He's languishing down in 13th at the moment, but he's set his fastest front three sections at the moment.
Again, hear it chattering there before he gets to Brunchen. And over Flansgarten.
This is not going to be a stellar lap, but it's going to be a solid lap for him.
Tarquini's on a personal best, but he needs to be as well. Tarquini's Honda is the best at the moment in 8th. Norby 11th. And Thiago 14th rather.
Pachita's going out on, or he's on his third flying lap. which we think is all that the car has, basically. And not doing a particularly stellar lap time, considering this is the lowest fuel load he'll carry throughout the session.
Ben, I'll tell you what he could be doing. He's going for a bit more of an endurance run to test how the tyres hold out, for pressures, for wear, as well as other parts of the car. So he could be just, you know, he's got the speed box ticked, so he's trying to make sure he's got the longevity of the car box ticked as well.
That's if he has enough for... Oh, there we go. Sector 3 pops in as the fastest so far, but it's whether he's got the fuel in the car to be able to do more than 3 laps flying.
Yeah.
Oh, he's taken 8/10 of a second out of Loeb in that Sector 3 alone.
I know.
And miles ahead of everyone else.
Massive, isn't it? Yeah, he did a 2:04.0 Sector 3. Gabriele did a 2:05.2 Sector 3. Thiago comes across the line, moves up to 10th place with that.
Coronel's in.
Yes. It's taken him the rest of the week to get round the Grand Prix loop. The Grand Prix Strecke. You like that, didn't you, Ben?
So the bolts have stayed in. The carbon fibre has actually failed. You might be able to see that.
So has it pulled the helicoils out?
Yeah.
So it'll be
exactly.
helicoiled, yeah.
So all the bolts are still in, and it literally has failed around the edge. Tom's already out of the car, he's not going any further.
Yeah. Loeb stays third with an 8:40.6. That second, third, fourth is a really tight little group there. Obviously generating see, they had a good beating.
Bit of gaffer will sort that out.
They're generating a lot of pressure there, aren't they?
Yes, aren't they, though?
That looks pretty quick from that angle, doesn't it? Looks like it's on fast forward.
They're definitely not hanging around. It's actually it might turn into quite an after. I can see the Schloss Nürburg in the background. Not of the shot, out of our window. That's the first time we'd be able to see it. It's fully 4 miles from here.
Look at there, you can see the windscreen of the windshield of Tarquini's Civic there, fully pushed in, yeah.
Popped in.
That's very disorientating for the drivers. It's like suddenly turning your glasses inside out.
I didn't realise they had bifocal windscreens.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of air rushing against the car. There is Schloss Nürburg. It's been spotted. It's finally visible, and that's not even 4 miles away, is it?
Up to 6th for Tarquini.
That's a good lap.
8:42.2.
See, Thiago looked so committed, and yet... Again, another thing that we need to catch up with the Honda guys that we haven't yet done, Matt, is talk about what exactly it was that they did to Gabriele's car underneath before race 2 in Hungary that transformed it from a lemon into lemonade, because it really flew. Yeah, in race 2, he and Norby were the 2 fastest cars of all.
It's obviously not flying enough to make the difference around here then, Martin.
Maybe it made it too nervous for this track.
Because Norby's down in 12th.
Jaap van Lagen, formerly fastest man, has gone back out. He's only 14th at the moment in the Lada. Rob Huff down to 9th in the Lada. Van Lagen going for lap number 4. So unless he's just going to meander around the Grand Prix track a couple of times, we have to assume that we might see a 4th flying lap in qualifying, because well, Valent and Loeb have both done 4. Muller's on his 4th. Tarquini's completed his 3rd and hasn't come into the pits yet. Banani's going out for a 5th.
Well, there you go then.
There I go where?
Well, that proves that all the teams complaining about the fact that they didn't have enough capacity for more than 3 laps to Eric Neve, and they've just proven themselves wrong.
Yeah, I think there's going to be another quick lap off Lopez, boys.
It doesn't need to go any faster. It doesn't need to go any faster at all. He's still fastest man.
Yeah, but
it's still quick enough
wants to be quicker for qualifying.
It's still quick enough to be P1.
That was an 8:40.2, which is quicker than anybody else has managed. So he's now got Pole for race 1. Oh, they're going to tie wrap it on, yeah, because carbon fibre mountings didn't work, so tie wraps definitely will, because they're not going to get ground away at all, are they?
That needs to come off there.
With the headset there is Manel, our chief scrutineer. It needs to come off. I tell you what, if they do another lap, it is going to come off. It'll be underneath the car.
They need to get that properly done before qualifying.
Yeah, no, he's Tom Coronel's not actually in the car, so that's just to take it back to the garage.
Yeah, to stop it doing even more damage. With Gabriele Tarquini, his camera's a bit misted up as well, isn't it? Across the line comes the larder of Van Lagen, and that was him going around the Grand Prix loop, not a full lap.
So this is the beginning of his final fast lap. Yeah,
final flying lap. Of course, when the checkered flag comes out, it'll take another 15 minutes or so for everybody to finally get back to the pit lane, because if you're on a lap, you're a long way away. If you pass the checkered flag a second before it flies, we won't see you for another 15 minutes, close on.
Tarquini's fastest Grand Prix circuit of anybody, so sector 1, and he's half a second off Lopez in sector 2, but obviously a mid-flight with him in through sector 3 at the minute. He does look still pretty committed.
Mar, 5th quickest on a personal best lap. He's got one fastest sector, sector 3, the dark side of the moon, which for strict convenience goes from Flugplatz halfway to Bergwerk. So sector 3 is 12.7 kilometres.
Bit of a short shift up there.
Which again is a moderately decent rally stage.
Huffy's also on a good one. He's in sector 3 at the moment. So an improvement for him.
Yeah.
And you just sort of expect that though, because the fuel's wearing off, and he did put a nice set of tyres on before his last route. He sat in the pits for about 15 minutes. So now, here we go, we have on board.
Yeah, up through Calenard.
Personal best in sector 3 as well. I tell you what, Matt, it's a damn sight faster track in FP2 than it was in FP1, isn't it?
Gosh, yeah.
I mean, really.
Up through Kesselchen. Really keep it pinned. Go on her feet.
Down the gear, through the left at Klostertal, and then coming up to the carousel. And this long, fast right-hand sequence.
Big Vipperman right-hander at the top for the run, just a little climb up over the crest and then into the carousel at the top.
Now, the engine noise is so loud on the roof-mounted camera that you don't hear what you hear in the car, Matt, which is the whole thing bottoms out all the way around there. It sounds like you've driven over a curb in the supermarket that you didn't see.
Yeah, we've had some neat little cameras underneath the cars, haven't we? But that would be a definite no-no for this weekend. It would be
that'd be a one-off.
The last about 2 corners.
Yeah, how to get a tubular camera back flat or left in the track dangling on a bit of string.
Puffy short shifting up a bit through that section just to get a bit of smoking a wee bit.
Yeah, he's really hustling on, isn't he?
That's because they're over fueling the car, just trying to get a bit more fuel in, a bit more oomph up the straights. Get a bit more fuel in there. The dark smoke is unburnt fuel obviously coming out, so
mapping maybe not quite perfect for the altitude.
Well, you can, if you make it richer, Martin, you can maybe get a wee bit more power, but you can
helps cool it.
You can wet the plugs up as well, so you run a risk there.
Oh, Gabriele all over the curbs.
Looks as though he's understeering out there. Looks like he needs more front end on that thing.
Fastest all on the Grand Prix circuit, but not even a personal best lap so far.
I'll tell you what, I bet that rattled his fillings out a bit.
Checkered flag is out as they cut past Flansgarten.
We should see an improvement from Norbert Micheli soon in the next minute or so. He was down in 12th position.
Yeah.
That
personal best lap for Norby, but yeah, that Honda looks a handful when it's honking on. Yeah. Across the line comes, which of the Citroens was that? Ma doesn't improve, he remains 5th fastest. Now, although your screen, your monitor is telling you the checkered flag is out, car just come across the line has not taken the checkered flag according to our timing screen. Norbert Micheli does, he takes the checkered flag and he moves up to 8th quickest. But again, our timing screen doesn't say he's taken the checker, so that's something that's changed.
Look at the bonnet, looks like the bonnet's going to rip off that larder.
It's that low pressure zone from the nose over the top. We saw it chattering at the front edge, it's chattering at the back edge as well.
You can hear it.
Yeah, I know you can, can't you? That's insane. Mehdi Banani finishes his lap in a very pedestrian pace. He came out of the pits and went round the Grand Prix loop and took the checkered flag. Seems to be rather redundant there. Rob Huff using all the curb and a lot more on the inside. Spent the best part of the last 2 hours in his Mercedes doing the second qualifying period. Getting a few more laps in the drying conditions. He goes 7th fastest in the Lada Vesta, an 8:42.8. Gabriele Tarquini was 6th. 8:42.273, and that was a half-second slower lap. So it was quick in the Grand Prix loop, and apart from that, it wasn't quite up to what he'd managed before. Jaap van Lagen, last of the triers. Who else is out on track still? Sabine Schmitz has got an improved lap coming. Jaap van Lagen in Sector 3 was on a personal best. And actually, a lap that is a second already quicker than Norbert Micheli, which was an 8:45, 8:44, 8. He might be close to Rob Huff's time on this.
Yeah, what they do, you know, with yeah, I was just thinking whether he'll complete the lap if he's not on it, because on the onboard data systems, they'll have a delta time, which is their fastest time, and they'll have a comparison against that, what they call a C time, and the driver, you know, is when you're on a racing lap or a qualifying lap, you can see down to 100th of a second whether you're up or down, whether you're making time, losing time, so you can abort it, you know, continue with it. But because the cars are in the air so much here, it actually confuses
the system because the wheel spin.
Yeah. Because the wheel spin and them not talking to each other. So I don't know whether it'll work here or they're using a more of a GPS-based system.
Here is Sabine Schmitz just about to complete her lap. Greens all the way along the board. 3:17 for the 4th sector. This is going to leave her maybe, all right, 16th place ahead of Tom Coronel. But that's only, well, she's completed 4 laps, but not all at speed. So not just Tom Coronel doing a TV programme here this weekend, got Sabine Schmitz doing one as well. And Van Lagen will be the last flyer across the line, really, of note, I think. Although, is Thiago still out on a lap? Yes, he is. Thiago Montero is still out in the country somewhere.
Yeah, it's going to be a solid lap from Van Lagen, by the looks. Top.
So 2:13.5. I think this is going to be... That's quicker than Huff's last lap on Sector 3. This could be quite close to Rob Huff's time. Huff is 7th. And Jaap van Lagen goes 8th. And the gap between them is 0.267. A quarter of a second over 12.8 miles separates Rob Huff and Jaap van Lagen. So I think you have to say that Jaap has certainly given it the beans on his laps in the dry so far.
I would imagine that flapping bonnet and everything is going to be costing Huffy time down the straight there.
Yeah,
it's got to be.
Although if it's in a low pressure zone, not so much maybe as you might think.
Because there's got to be air getting underneath it.
Yeah.
to cause that.
Yeah, that leading edge chattering is the worry. The back edge chattering, not so much, because that's just in the vacuum that the moving air leaves in that low pressure zone, and that may be designed to help duct air out from under the engine. Last flying lap then for Thiago Monteiro. Across the line comes Gregoire de Moustier, no improvement from him, he remains in 15th. Dario Desposito, the team manager at Honda, watching the action. He's the man who, in the famous words of David Duffield, parts his hair with a chamois leather. And the man to his immediate left on the far end of the perch is Alessandro Marinari from ES Sports.
So this is going to be interesting for qualifying, because obviously with just one session you can work out where you're roughly going to sit in the top 10. Now, for race 1, that's going to be the positions, the top 17, but for race 2, they are still going to reverse that top 10, and unlike with our traditional system, you probably can plan or find yourself in that 9th, 10th. So we might see a couple of people aiming for the 9th, 10th spot. Yes, it's not great for race 1, but it'd be great for race 2.
9th and 10th at the moment, Mehdi Ben-Ami and Norbert Michaelis, 4.9 and 5.7 seconds respectively off the fastest lap. I think we can say without pretty much any fear of contradiction that by the end of lap 1, the Citroens will be back in front.
Thiago's abandoned that.
Yeah.
It depends if you can overtake. We saw Rob Huff being really compromised by Coronel.
It's 13 miles. The best Citroen will have no more than 5 cars to pass, assuming they all make it into the top 10.
Or all they've got to do is wait to the main straight.
Yeah.
And do a bit of slipstreaming.
Yeah.
Because
they're just hop along the straight, same as they did in Argentina.
Well, they're not running into the limiter, so there's more. So a slipstream will mean a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, normally we expect it in lap 1 or 2 on a 2.5 mile circuit. Here, lap 1 is basically 5 laps of anywhere else. Well, for a very wet first free practice with fog, mist and very restricted grip, never mind visibility, we have translated into a warm, dry and, well, warmish, dry and vaguely sunny second free practice that sees the Citroen of Jose Maria Lopez at the top of the pile, but Hugo Vallant in second place in his Chevy Cruze. You saw Sebastian Loeb, who was 3rd quickest. This is the man who has set the fastest time around this track, 8:39. I'm writing that down now because that's the sort of thing that I will want. 8:39.441. In fact, I'm going to do better than that. I'm now going to take a picture of the screen.
You could
it's
just
still
go down the press
not
center.
as fast
as they did in testing.
Yeah,
indeed. However, I may actually get an actual timing sheet from the press office in the next 6 hours, but that's not guaranteed. So qualifying, 6:20 local time. The cars go out on track, so we'll be up on your feed at 6:15 here. That's GMT, which is 16:15, 4:15 in the afternoon, Greenwich Mean Time rather, 6:15 here CET. So that is the time for the start of our qualifying broadcast. So wherever you're watching, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks to down in the pit lane, to Ben Constantius, to Alex Legui, thanks to Matt Neal alongside me, to all the World Touring Car TV crew who are here on site, and to our colleagues at Vigadata who have been producing so much of the added coverage as well. Let's have a quick word with our fastest guys before we call it a day.
Petito, a fantastic FP2 there for you. Fastest man, what's your strategy going to be now for qualifying?
Try to be as quick as I can, as always. Never know. Also, as I always say, you have to see the others, which tires. I think here, even one lap older tires would make a big difference on this circuit, so we don't know that. So I think with the time of the true is always the qualifying. Of course, in my case, I've been feeling very confident on the circuit, consistently on front. that is a good point for me, but I don't have to relax and keep working just to try to improve a little bit more.
How much are you noticing the change underneath you because of the weather?
I think off the line is a bit more slippery, but in the line it's okay. Very good grip, and I think especially because of the weather, it's a bit colder today. The engines, they run a little bit better today. So what you gain on the straight, and you lose it on maybe on the corners, but overall, more or less, it's the same circuit as yesterday.
Great, thank you.